Nope, it's muted the whole time. I don't know who muted Billy's mic specifically, but Billy's mic was muted the whole time. So, with that, I think we just start the episode right here.
Well, if we are beginning this episode after we tried to record about 2 minutes into the episode, where Sir Mitch realized his mic was off. Anyway, I am Luke Heaton, and as I previously said before, that you guys won't even get to see, your redheaded friend, joined by my red-capped friend, Mitchell Mason.
I think we just run through it again.
Yeah.
Hard sportsing.
Yeah, let's see what we talked about. April and March, great months for hardcore sportsing.
Yes.
We got the Masters coming up, March Madness, opening day, NFL draft, NBA playoffs.
Technically, were we off air? I mean, you were on air.
I was on air.
Off air.
You were. So it was just it was like a solo pod.
Yeah, we just, we tried to talk. It was so unique, right? Just friendship back and forth, and you couldn't hear me at all. No, but the first round of the NCAA tournament was incredible. Not that many upsets. You got to watch just cannon shells rip through my bracket, which was incredible for all involved. We didn't move off the couch at your place for quite some time. We had multiple different ethnic foods delivered to the place. Buffalo Wild Wings is too kind to supply their boneless deliciousness.
Yes.
But yeah, we didn't move for a long time. You'd mentioned the Masters, which you are sporting on your cap. Mm-hmm. That's coming up. The rest of March Madness, which we'll dive into in just a little bit. A lot of amazing sports balling to witness. Preferably from your couch.
Yes. So, we were watching March Madness. We had Taco Bell and Buffalo Wild Wings. I don't know what app you used, but the deal was if you order at least $25 worth of wings, you
save $4 on delivery.
That's exactly right. So
what a steal.
We looked at each other and said, we've been on the couch for about 5 hours. Let's order another meal. And it delivered to us, and that bought us about a few more hours on the couch, which was great. Who knew you could get exhausted by sitting on a couch all day? I went to bed very tired. I guess because I sportsed as hard as possible.
Your best night's sleep. You're just mentally and physically drained.
Yeah, what did you do yesterday? Well, actually, I didn't do hardly anything. Yeah. So that was a great day. But yes, this pod, I picked this up, didn't even take a sip.
Just a prop.
Yes.
Just raising a glass. That's all he's doing.
This podcast, we're going to dive into the first and second round of March Madness and kind of recap that and then preview the Sweet 16 that begins tomorrow. We're recording on a Wednesday. And then we're going to talk about opening day, do a lot of serious and fun baseball over-unders as a preview for this upcoming baseball season. Mm-hmm. Opening day is just a national holiday in America, so very excited about that. And then we're going to have a lesson at the end kind of comparing how our plans and life can kind of crumble and relate that to upsets of maybe higher-seeded teams going home a little earlier than they expected in the NCAA tournament. So it should be a full pod, and then the upcoming episodes of the podcast will, like we said, these 2 months have unlimited amounts of sports. Mm-hmm. So we're excited to continue sportsing about that. But without further ado, we are one weekend in to March Madness, one of the greatest things in the world. Mitch, any opening thoughts on, you kind of gave like how your bracket was busted, but any other opening thoughts in the first 2 rounds of the tournament?
My bracket, like you said, was absolute shreds by actually 5 games in. I believe I started 1-4, so that wasn't great. So you just got to look at individual performances. Zion Williamson and Duke, not unstoppable. I mean, their first round victory, obviously they cruised, but then against UCF, a little bit of a tight game. I mean, my goodness, the basketball gods certainly seemed to favor Krzyzewski and the Blue Devils there. Just somehow got 2 back-to-back close tip-ins to roll off the rim. John Morant at Murray State, my goodness, he's exciting to watch. And to be honest, I didn't know a ton about him before watching the first 2 rounds of that. I knew that Murray State was an electric team. I knew his name, but I had not really watched him play. He's fun and exciting. He certainly looks like a top 3 pick in the NBA lottery draft this summer. And, I think the other thing is there's just no overwhelming upsets. Yeah. what was it? UC Irvine upset their
Kansas State.
4 seed, Kansas State, which I did get right. Woohoo, go Max Hazard. But other than that, it was pretty much as Gabe and apparently the rest of the national media likes to call it. It was chalk.
Yes.
Across the board. Was not familiar with that term coming into this week, but
it
now
was
I am.
chalk. 14 of the 16 teams that made it to the Sweet 16 are chalk. The higher seed won.
That's crazy.
So I will take the time now. I already apologized on Twitter, but I'd like to apologize for the listeners of this podcast because I said this year was going to be upset city with how top-heavy
I did too.
the rankings were in basketball this year and how fluid the middle part of the rankings and then the last part of the top 25, then moving into probably the top 50. Mm-hmm. It was very fluid, a lot of different teams winning and beating each other. So I thought, well, this is the perfect year for 5-12 upsets, which it was, for 13-4, 8-9, 7-10s. But the 1, 2, and 3 seeds prevailed. However, I also did preface my hypothesis, my guess that it would be upset city with saying that I'm always wrong. Yep. So I said, I'm always wrong, so might as well pick the opposite. So if you went chalk this year, you made the correct decision.
Yeah, absolutely.
Outside of 3 12 seeds beating 5 seeds, really not that much.
Yeah. We
thought for sure Belmont. I thought for
Belmont
sure Belmont was a lock to upset Maryland. A lot of people, yourself included, had Yale. And they almost beat LSU. LSU's won some squeaker games.
They did. Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what else. I mean,
I had Virginia got out to a molasses-like start against Gardner Webb, right? Really felt like, oh my gosh, UVA is about to become the embarrassment, the laughingstock of college basketball. They came out, smashed the running Bulldogs in the second half, and then I had picked Utah State to beat Washington. I thought that game was going to go rather easily in favor of the Aggies. Instead, they didn't shoot the basketball well at all. Washington kind of blew them out, and then Virginia marches on once again. Honestly, none of the second-round games were really that entertaining other than Duke, UCF. I thought, Tech Buffalo, a lot of people, including myself, had Buffalo at least challenging Tech. Tech shot them out of the building.
Tech ran away with that game, which I was shocked. I had Nevada, Buffalo meeting in the Sweet 16, and Nevada going to the Elite 8. Florida, I don't know if you called it upset. I'd say it's more of an even match, Florida-Nevada, but Florida ended up beating Nevada.
Well, for Nevada being a top, 5 team in the
country?
country?
They were a top 5 team in the country.
I think, they didn't close the season well at all, but Florida didn't do anything until the end of the season. They got tournament eligible. So, I'd still say that was an upset. You and I both had Nevada moving on. So did Aaron Torres.
Yeah, you're right about Buffalo. Buffalo kind of got blown out of the water by Tech. Tech ran away with it. Yeah. And then the 1 seeds had some scares. UNC, their first round game was close. Duke was only up 4 at halftime in their first round game. Like you said, UVA.
Bradley pushed Michigan State as a 2 seed.
Bradley sure pushed Michigan State. Ooh. And I do not have faith in Sparty. I don't know if I ever will, because it's kind of like a Cincinnati team. They're great regular season teams, and then they just kind of fall apart in postseason. But we've got a great Sweet 16 matchup in Sparty and LSU.
Yes.
But before we get too deep, I would like to talk. We've got to talk a little Duke. They've had 3 halves of close basketball. Being a dominant team. I don't know if you've got to watch a ton, but I guess what do you think about that? They've had 3 halves where they were playing even basketball with their opponent. Yeah,
so I did watch all of Duke UCF. Should have been studying. Was definitely watching that game instead. It's okay, Mom. I've made up for it this week. UCF, the thing was, obviously Taco Fall was the linchpin of the UCF defense, right? How is he going to match up in the paint defending his Zion Williamson? And the game plan for Duke was get aggressive in the paint, make him foul you, because that's what he does. He's 7'6". He can reach, and he uses that to his advantage, but he also gets in trouble when he reaches a little bit too far. And so Duke, to their point, was aggressive getting into the paint early. Taco played responsible basketball, and then Duke honestly just was super streaky.
Yeah.
I mean, they, depending on how Cam Reddish and RJ Barrett are shooting, they're either the best team in NCAA basketball, or they're just middle of the road. And for a little bit there, nothing was falling for Duke. All the momentum seemed to swing towards UCF. Duke got a little bit too careless with the basketball, and it never really felt like UCF was the better team, which oftentimes you see in upsets. It's like, wow, okay, this top seed just came out flat. Duke did come out flat, but it didn't really feel like UCF was the better team. It just, you look up and you're like, oh my gosh, this is a one-score game. Oh my goodness, UCF's taking the lead.
Yeah.
And then obviously at the end, just couldn't quite get the roll. But to be quite honest, I think most of the basketball world really thinks that UCF should have won that game. Mike Krzyzewski said that after the game. They should have won that game, to be quite honest. So, I'm not super. I am riding out my Duke pick to win the national championship. The talent on that, they have 3 of the top 5 picks coming up in this lottery draft. So, I mean, conventional wisdom would say, yeah, ride that horse till it dies.
Yeah.
So I'm just waiting to see what round my horse gets shot in.
Yeah. I think Duke lovers kind of had a humbling in the first 2 rounds of basketball. In the NCAA tournament, perimeter play and guard play prevails.
Yeah.
You have to be able to shoot the 3 and make perimeter shots. And Duke just doesn't do that. They're 30% from 3 on the season, which is a historical low if they win the national championship for a national championship team, and a historical low for Coach K teams, who typically shoot around 38 to 40%, which at minimum is top 50 in the country every year for the past 15 years.
Yeah.
So, and they can't shoot. And you watch the UCF game, they literally would not guard Trey Jones. He would have 8 feet of separation from the perimeter. He shot 1 of 8 from 3. He's 23% on the year.
Ooh. Zion
hasn't made multiple threes. What's the stat? He's made multiple threes, I think, 2 or 3 times this year in a game. I mean, and even RJ Barrett, they all shoot low 30%. So they're extremely limited from 3. So if you're able to withstand that initial, just brutal athletic force that Duke has, and then climb back into a game with perimeter shots and hang around, teams like UCF can pull up an upset.
Well, and that's why a lot of people think, teams like Auburn can get far this year.
Yeah.
I had Villanova beating Purdue. Now that's a different story. Villanova's perimeter shooting has been great when they've gone on their runs. Didn't happen against Purdue, so that was another one I got wrong.
Carson Edwards for Purdue shot 6 of 10 from 3 that game, so he won the perimeter shooting battle.
Carson Edwards was, and where did we say he's from?
He is, I don't know the high school, but it was the high school that lost to Plano West in the state final.
Yes,
I think it was like
Texas boy.
Yeah, he's a Houston, Galveston area kind of guy.
Yeah, Carson Edwards absolutely dismantled Villanova.
Yeah.
He was on fire that game. That was fantastic to watch. But going back to your point, if a team like Auburn matches up against Duke, right, where Auburn will push the pace, they're going to spread you out, and they're going to shoot threes. For better or worse, they're going to shoot the perimeter shot. Whereas when you defend against Duke, like you've been saying, and a lot of other people have said, if you can kind of suck in and just defend the zone and defend the paint, you've got a great shot against Duke. The problem is a lot of teams just aren't physically equipped to handle that athleticism and stop Zion from getting inside. But when you have a guy like Taco Fall, which I get, unique athlete, right? Not many 7'6" guys running around on the basketball court. But when you have a guy that can defend the interior paint like that and force Duke outside and force them into a shooting match, right? When you're just having to trade threes, Duke's not equipped to do that. And so do I actually believe that Duke will win the national championship? No. Now I really, really don't. Going into this, I was like, man, how do you not pick Duke? I mean, they've got Zion, they've got all this talent, but they can't shoot the perimeter jump shot. And there was someone, I don't remember if it was one of your roommates or someone else that I was talking to. They said it was Christian Westerberg, Texas A&M goalie, who I've covered for the last 2 years. Shout out to Christian. He said when he looks at projecting brackets, he looks at 3-point shooting and rebounds. Those are the only 2 stats that he looks at when he picks teams, if he doesn't just go off gut. because that's what wins. Shooting those 3 balls, like you said, and then cleaning up the defensive glass, getting second chance opportunities on the offensive side, that wins basketball games. And so right now, if you put a Duke and an Auburn together, I mean, I'm going to say Duke's going to win for the sake of my bracket, but Auburn would have a legitimate shot to win that if their shots are falling.
I agree. I mean, rebounding, you get yourself extra possessions, and man, if you can get hot, man, watching, of course I watched the Auburn KU game, being a KU fan, and of course I was just
tough.
It was tough to watch, and I expected. I picked Auburn to beat KU in my bracket just because KU. We can talk about their flaws this year all day. They cannot win a perimeter game, and that's what Auburn does. I've never seen. It's been a long time since I've seen a team start as fast and play as fast as Auburn did against Kansas. It was unbelievable. I think they started 8 of 15 from 3. Rebound, run transition, run to your spot in the wing, shoot. Bryce Brown and Jared Harper, they'd run the wings, stop on the wing, catch the ball, shoot. Every possession. And KU couldn't do anything about it. KU was trading 2s for 3s, and you can't win games like that. And Auburn, man, you've got to say they're the hottest team in the country. They knocked Tennessee off a regular season SEC title and out of the SEC championship game, and then they just blow KU out of the water. They're up 25 at halftime. This Auburn team is incredibly dangerous.
Which that was a historic deficit for Kansas.
In
the NCAA tournament too, which I saw that and was immediately like, oh, Luke is just in a puddle right now, isn't he?
It was tough. And it made it a little better because that's what I expected. It wasn't like losing to a VCU or a Villanova 2 or 3 years ago. But man, this Auburn team is incredibly dangerous. So if you're doing a second chance bracket, picking Auburn is not a bad pick. Now, I'm going to say this for the rest of my time on this podcast. In March Madness, whatever I say is wrong. So be careful picking Auburn purely because I said they could be a good pick.
Right.
But seeing the work they've put together in this tournament so far, yes, the New Mexico State game was close. Late game, Auburn just kind of had some flukes, but they just blew. It's still a good Kansas team out of the water, and that is something. That's not something to just brush by.
Yeah.
I think it's laughable that our Cinderella this year is Oregon.
Yeah, there isn't a non-Power 5 team left, right? I think everyone, Florida State, I guess Gonzaga. Gonzaga is the only.
And then Houston.
Yeah.
Gonzaga and Houston.
Gonzaga and Houston. So 2 out of the 16 teams are.
Yeah, and our Cinderella is the Pac-12 tournament champion. Is our Cinderella a Power 5 school?
Which, I mean, they are a legit 12 seed. It's not like they impressed anyone during the regular season, but they're another team that very much like Auburn. And I was looking for a tweet that Aaron Torres had on some Auburn statistics and couldn't find it. Teams like Oregon, teams like Utah State that I had going, I think I only got 8 out of 16 Sweet 16 teams. I lost half my field. I want to say on day 1. I don't even think necessarily in round 2. I think it was on day 1. I lost 8 of my Sweet 16 teams because I lost teams like Yale and Utah State that I just believed in their shooting, their perimeter game. I thought, look, they rolled through their conference tournaments. They ended the season well. Their shooting percentages from deep are up high. Wofford with Fletcher McGee.
Yeah, Fletcher McGee, man.
I don't think in my main bracket I had Wofford upsetting Kentucky, but I did in a couple of others. I think the best bracket that I did have, I lost Wofford. Fletcher McGee, what was it? The school's best 3-point shooter of all time, and then he set
the NCAA record for career threes.
Yeah. So this guy does nothing but hit threes. He went 0 for 12.
Yeah.
He didn't hit a 3 against Kentucky. There was, I think I was watching First Take. They said if he just has an average game, and I think actually Texags Radio might have said it too, if he just has an average game, if he hits 3-4 buckets, right, out of 12.
Yeah.
So terrible for him, but average for the rest of the league. Wofford probably upsets Kentucky.
Yeah.
But in the biggest game of this kid's life, the all-time leader in career threes, and he can't hit one of them. And a lot of them were close. A lot of them
Yeah.
were teasingly close to going
Yeah.
in. It wasn't like he was just hitting the backboard, but
That's just the
it's
thing.
brutal.
This year, it's the year of the Blue Bloods being graced by God.
Yeah.
Not God, but the basketball gods. I don't want to commit heresy live on the podcast. However, the
really
basketball
tarnishes
gods.
the lesson coming up
Yeah.
here. Let's talk about upsets, which clearly God was not in favor this year.
The basketball gods, if you will, is gracing the Blue Bloods this year. I think another interesting to look at is Tennessee. I don't think you should be out on Tennessee right now. They're squeaking by teams, but let's look at their body of work this year. They've done that a lot this season. And that's what people worried about LSU as well. They've had a lot of close games. All right, but look, they're winning them. If your culture is to win close games, that's your culture.
Sure.
And that's good. Tennessee, let me remind you, they've only lost to a healthy Kansas at the beginning of the year, a hot and good Kentucky team, the SEC champions, LSU, and twice to the hottest team in America, Auburn.
When you said hot and good Kentucky team, I thought of Wendy's hot and fresh slogan all of a sudden. So now I've got
I'm thinking of the 4 for $4 from Wendy's.
DoorDash. Let's get it going live on the podcast.
Right to
anyway, back to your point.
Yes. But don't sleep on Tennessee because they've had close games. Yes, they almost blew a 25-point lead to Iowa. Yes, their first round game to Colgate, they won only by 7. But look, they're still winning, and they've only lost to – they don't have any bad losses whatsoever.
Right.
Plus, they have the makeup for a championship team. You've got unbelievable point guard play in Jordan Bone. You've got the SEC Player of the Year 2 years in a row in Grant Williams. You've got a wing threat, defensive and offensive, in Admiral Schofield. And then you've got other just athletes in there, like Jordan Bowden. Like and then a great coach in Rick Barnes and unbelievable team chemistry. Now, yes, it's the tournament and things can happen, but just because they've squeaked by the first 2 rounds doesn't mean you should just throw in your towel on Tennessee because they're still a very, very good team.
Right. When you look at teams that win close ball games, I think of baseball. Going back to like when the Rangers were at the height of their ascension, right? 2010, 2011, and then kind of their resurgence in 2014, 2015, 2016, they were among the MLB leaders in winning one-run games. And nobody questioned, okay, you're not blowing teams out, so you're not legitimate. You're not winning 10-1 ball games at a high clip, so we're not going to take you seriously. Instead, I look at it the other way. When you win those close games, you're not slipping up where the vast majority of the league does. When it comes down to those crucial moments and that clutch situation and all the pressure is on your guys and the game is on the line, you're finding ways to win, not ways to lose. And I think the Iowa game is a perfect example of that. I mean, Iowa scratched and clawed their way back into that game. That comeback was incredible
I think they hit 11. Maybe was it that game? Maybe 11 threes in the second half?
They did hit a lot of threes. I don't know the exact number, but to me, what I kept thinking that entire second half is, okay, how does Tennessee mentally react to that? Because if I'm putting myself in my shoes, right, when I played baseball games and tournaments, long tournaments, right, if you have a team, you jump out to a quick lead, 5-1, 5-2, 6-1, something like that, and then all of a sudden the other team gets hot and they crank out 3 runs, 4 runs in an inning. All of a sudden, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh no, are we going to blow this? Is this how we're going to lose? Instead, what you saw Tennessee do and what you've seen them do all season is not wonder, oh no, are we going to lose this game? But instead find that extra gear, step on the gas. And is it close coming down to the final whistle? Absolutely. But Tennessee is winning those games. They're not losing those games. They've got that clutch factor. And Rick Barnes has his guys playing for each other. No, they're not just playing for the name on the back of their jersey. They're playing for the name on their chest. Yeah. And they're playing for each other, and you can see that in their team chemistry, especially post-game interviews. Those are so much fun to watch with Tennessee because usually, they'll pull aside like Grant Williams, and then Grant gets Schofield over, and they'll talk about each other. Like, the questions will be about, Grant, what did you think about this? How did you do this? And he just deflects all the praise over to his teammates, and likewise for every single person that they interview. They're fun to watch because they're playing great basketball, or good basketball, maybe not great right now, but good basketball, good enough basketball. And they're playing it in such a team style to where it's hard not to root for them. I don't have any ties to Tennessee. I don't have any vested interest in Tennessee other than the SEC. But at the same time, I'm actively rooting against one of the largest NCAA comebacks ever because I want to keep seeing Tennessee play basketball.
Yeah. So, don't sleep on Tennessee because we aren't.
Off my soapbox.
But since we aren't, maybe you should. Regardless.
Yeah, very, very true.
Looking at the bracket, what are one or two Sweet 16 games you're excited to watch?
Well, right back to the Volunteer State. I want to see Purdue, Tennessee tomorrow night at 7:30. I'm really, really excited to see that. Purdue is big. They're athletic. Tennessee is big, and they're athletic. And I just want to see which one of those teams kind of wins that grudge match. I'm really hoping that it's, another one of those close buzzer beater games, not just because everyone roots for madness, but these are two elite teams that I think a lot of people had going at the very least to the Sweet 16 if you didn't take Villanova to upset Purdue. And honestly, you just from the way that these two teams have played during the regular season, how they played during the tournament, you could be looking at your national champion coming out of this.
Yeah.
So I'd say Purdue, Tennessee, and then LSU, Michigan State. I still am not sold on LSU being able to compose a full tournament run to get to the Final Four and win a national championship. I don't see how you can block out all the distractions.
Yeah.
I mean, every question coming your way is about your ex-head coach who's suspended. And, whether or not they're asking the players this, did you take money? I mean, now people, if you did take money, you've got to be sweating a little bit because you have the eyes of the country upon you, and there's about to be a hefty investigation into this. So I just think there's too many cooks in the kitchen for LSU, too many ingredients right now that kind of spell disaster, and that's why I had Yale upsetting them. Now, they came out, they beat Yale handedly for the most part. Yale made it close in the end, but so far they've looked really good. And then, you were talking about it a little bit earlier, Michigan State. Every single year they look so good in the regular season. They go on a tear to end the regular season. They win the conference tournament. But Tom Izzo never seems to be able to cut down the net at the very end, right? Every year I have at least one bracket in which I pick the Spartans to win. Every year, because I've been a Michigan State closet basketball fan for a long time. I like Tom Izzo, but I don't know. So I would like to see Michigan State be legit this year.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that LSU-Michigan State game just because I love the talent LSU has with Javonte Smart, Big B Williams, Naz Reid, Vermont Waters, Skylar Mays. Unbelievable talent, unbelievable distraction.
Yeah.
Which is made for entertainment, selfishly entertainment. But I'm really excited to see how Michigan State handles that talent because Michigan State doesn't have as many big names, but they have a great point guard in Cassius Winston. I'm going to love to see the Cassius Winston-Tremont Waters matchup. That's going to be great. I think I'm most excited for North Carolina-Auburn. That game, you're going to feel like you're watching that in fast forward. It's going to be the fastest game of basketball you will see all season. With North Carolina's Kobe White at point guard, one of the fastest guards in the country, with Auburn's transition offense, with North Carolina's historical and legendary transition offense and all they do in transition with screens and coming up from the paint for threes. It's awesome action to watch. If you like fast basketball, it's going to be like watching if you ever played summer basketball or AAU. It's just hectic, exciting basketball to watch. So that's going to be very exciting. Another matchup, I'm really intrigued by the Tech-Michigan matchup because good defense with Tech as a top 5 defensive team this year, John Beilein and Michigan's defense. Plus, it's just not a lot of huge names. Yes, you have Culver for Tech, and then you just got and then Jordan Poole for Michigan. But besides that, you have a lot of underrated players that are very good at playing the sport of basketball. So that's going to be I'm excited for the coaching matchup between Beeline and Chris Beard. Trying to think of any games we're sleeping on. Don't sleep on Virginia, Oregon. That's going to be a very athletic matchup. Oregon's a very athletic team, and Virginia that's just going to could be another just defensive gauntlet of basketball.
Yeah, and then the last game, the nightcap on Friday, which I might get to see a little bit of, we'll see. Houston versus Kentucky.
Yeah.
A lot of folks have Houston knocking off the Wildcats, which Kentucky does look pretty susceptible right now.
Absolutely.
I mean, Houston's shooting the ball well. They're playing decent defense. They're not turning the ball over a ton. Kentucky, they've just been such an ebb and flow team this season. They've looked like a traditional Calipari power at times, and then at others, you've been like, oh, okay, maybe not. They've got a lot of holes and flaws in them. So that's going to be an interesting one. It would be huge for Houston if Houston could win. And honestly, if you're an A&M fan, with all of the recruits being granted a full release,
yeah,
are you rooting, especially for like the local guys, are you kind of rooting for Kentucky to embarrass Houston so that those guys will commit? Are you rooting for Virginia Tech to get embarrassed so that Buzz Williams will come to A&M?
That's very true. I haven't thought of those scenarios. That's very interesting.
Like, because that's what I was rooting for with Liberty Va Tech is, Liberty athletics seems to be kind of on a tear. I mean, really any sport that they're playing, they're doing well in. Baseball, softball, football, basketball.
Yeah.
They're doing pretty well in it. But the only thing that I cared about in that matchup, because I think I didn't have Liberty moving on, and I might have had Mississippi State in my Sweet 16. I don't remember. I was just like, man, maybe not get embarrassed, but I need the Flames to win so that Va Tech can be out. Buzz Williams is his own agent, so he can take a step back.
Yeah.
He can decide, okay, I'm going to Texas A&M, which he has connections here, and we can put that story to bed. Instead, you've got to wonder now, oh my gosh, is Va Tech about to make a run to the Elite Eight, to the Final Four? How do you get Buzz Williams to leave Va Tech after a Final Four run? Not many coaches would do that.
No,
he's rebuilt that Va Tech program.
Yeah.
It would be like...
That's got his name all over.
Yeah, it would be like leaving your baby, right?
Yeah.
You've raised it, you get it to an Elite Eight, a Final Four, and then you're going to say, but now I'm going to go rebuild another school.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I do on NCAA 14, but I'm not making millions of dollars to go do that.
But you just have no heart in that game.
Forget your loyalty.
That's
I'm going to Indiana.
Yeah, that's true. That's very interesting. I don't know if Houston will ever be able to be a recruit stealer consistently from A&M, from Texas, from Tech.
From an SEC school that just put 4 teams in the Sweet 16.
Yeah. Because, you've got Houston. Their guys are all 22 years old. They're all seniors. Houston's always going to be a program. You develop local guys, and then they're really good at 22. Their guards right now are as good as any SEC guards, but they're also 3 years older than a lot of the SEC guards. That game's exciting. Kentucky, I haven't been sold on all year.
Right.
And PJ Washington, who I'm not even sold on,
is he gonna play?
Questionable.
Yeah,
he posted a video of him walking today.
Woo!
But
well, put him in the starting 5. He can walk on 2 feet.
Because Calipari said for the first round, I can't imagine he doesn't play. And then he said, I can't imagine he does play.
Right, and then he comes in on a scooter for
the
first round game.
So if they're missing PJ Washington, man, that's dangerous. For a Houston team we've talked about is a perimeter team, and man, if they catch fire, that's going to be tough for Kentucky to deal with.
Yeah.
But that's about all the March Madness talk we have. We're both very excited. And this Thursday and Friday is going to be great for games, and then Saturday and Sunday for the Elite Eight.
Pour one out for me. I'm working the baseball game Friday night, so
pour one out for me from my sports side. From my spiritual side, I'm happy. I'll be at a youth retreat this weekend, so I'll miss the Friday and Saturday games.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll catch service, and I'll be selfishly watching those games. We'll see.
Put a Band-Aid on yourself, kid. I'm watching
right.
Houston beat Kentucky right now.
But yes, we're very excited about that. But now, tomorrow is a huge day on top of basketball. It is opening day, baby.
We survived!
And with that, I give it to Mitch.
Man, yes, baseball fans, it is time to come out of your wintry closets, your bedrooms, throw off the sheets, come out into the brilliant sunlight that spring has given us once again. Smell that green grass, get the dirt, the allergies that come with that. Opening day is upon us. Technically, opening day for baseball in general was last Wednesday when the Mariners and A's opened up in Tokyo. Yeah. For all 6 of you that watched that at 4 in the morning. But Ichiro retired. That was great. He had his moment at home. That was a really moving scene to see. I mean, his teammates literally breaking down into tears. Ichiro is an absolute legend. But to the rest of it, there is so much on the line this year as far as contracts go, storylines to watch. I mean, the CBC right now, or the CBA, I should say, for MLB has been kind of talked about as a little bit of a disaster, right? Revenue for MLB is setting a record high every single year. So, last year MLB, I think, brought in $10 billion with a B dollars. Last year, or that was 2 years ago. Last year it was $10.3 billion, and yet the average MLB salary is actually decreasing. And so that sets up this whole scenario where people are worried about a strike in 2020, 2021, which we've seen before in baseball. Not really seriously, I don't think, in our times, at least when we were old enough to really care about it. But 2019 is a huge year. It is the year of the mega contract. You've had Mike Trout get one. You've had Bryce Harper. You've had Manny Machado. Chris Sale got signed to a very nice extension. Even Justin Verlander got $66 million over 2 years from the Houston Astros. Money is being doled out, right, in huge quantities. And so the question for the 2019 season is this a year that teams that go out and just throw the payroll at players like the Philadelphia Phillies, is this their year to shine? The Boston Red Sox were one of only 2 teams to go over the luxury tax threshold last year, but they did that after trading for people at the deadline. And so it's just a money game to see how fiscally responsible can you be, how fiscally conservative can you be, and still compete. And the big problem this year and probably the next 2 years is you look across the landscape of Major League Baseball, and there's really only about half the league that is competitive, right? Especially in the American League. I mean, it's the AL East, so the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Rays. In the Central, you have the the Twins and the Indians, and then in the West, it's the Astros, the A's, maybe the Angels. The other unmentioned teams are out. I mean, straight up Tank City. We're going for a high draft pick right now, and that includes the Texas Rangers, which is unfortunate, but hey, rep the red, as we get ready to transition into the new ballpark. So, all of that to say, with money in the background, we're going to go over a couple of over-unders as far as win totals go, and then I also have World Series betting lines, which is extremely intriguing. If you decide that the 48-win Baltimore Orioles are going to surprise the universe and win the World Series this year, for betting $10, you would win 600 large.
Wow.
600 grand. So we'll get into that in just a second. But first of all, I want to talk about my picks here for the division. And I put this out on Twitter. I am about to back off one of my picks, but basically here's how it shook out. In the American League, I had the New York Yankees winning the East, the Indians winning the Central, and the Astros winning the West. And then the Twins and the Red Sox are my wild cards. In the NL, I had the Phillies, the Cardinals, and the Dodgers winning, with the Brewers. And I put the Braves. I'm going to back off, and I'm going to say the Nationals actually get that wild card. So I'm going to correct that on Twitter. I love what the Nationals have done. They signed Patrick Corbin. They have a lot of young pieces that are about to come up and contribute, especially in their outfield. My goodness, they've got a lot of talent out there. So I'm going to back off the Braves, who have an extremely young pitching staff, and go with the Nationals. But to get to some interesting over-unders, and we were talking about this really off-air before I had the microphone blunder. The top team, according to oddshark.com, as far as over-under, is the Boston Red Sox. Oddshark.com has them at 108. They won 108 games last year. Their projected win total is 100 games for this season. So they set a franchise record last year for wins. And this is, you were saying this is the brilliance of Vegas and all legal gambling sites, is they set numbers that are so brutally realistic and force you to pick one side or the other, right? Yeah. You can't straddle the fence here. You have to say, okay, are they going to follow up a franchise season with, an even better performance or something close to it, or are there subtractions from the bullpen really going to hurt them, and are they going to kind of fall back towards mediocrity? It's just it's such an interesting game. So the Red Sox are highly regarded up there. Let me see here. The New York Yankees also have a high win total at 96.5. Good luck picking that. I'm favoring the Yankees, so I'm going to take the over in that one. But you get to your Texas Rangers. This may be the most brutal number of all. If you're going to bet on this, get ready. The Texas Rangers won 67 games is what this is. I actually don't know if that's right or not. I feel like we won 70 games last year. I'll look in just a second. This number has the Rangers at 71. That's the fence. So you either pick below 71, and essentially the Rangers are out of contention from the very get-go, or you take the over and hope that their rotation, which is battered, bruised, all 5 of them have had Tommy John surgery, can somehow get close to 500. I mean, how do you make money doing this is my question to you.
It may be the impossible.
Yeah. It's incredible as I'm looking up the Rangers 2018
I'm a hopeful, though. I would just hate to pick the under on 71.
Yeah.
I could see the Rangers winning 75 games. So I would pick the over.
Yeah.
I don't really have a ton to base that on. but I really do think a 75 win season is realistic.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that too, because obviously if you're going to be that's still below 500, so that is still mediocre, middle of the pack. The thing is, you're betting on injuries. And that's what's so hard to project over a 162 game schedule is who stays healthy, who goes down with a massive arm injury. I mean, like with the Astros,
it may be a matter of when do we have a massive arm injury for the Rangers.
For the Rangers, that is absolutely true. For teams like the Astros, which won 103 games last year, their betting line is at 96.5, which I think is very reasonable. They've lost Dallas Keuchel. He's no longer on the team. He's a free agent, still hasn't been signed. Lance McCullers Jr. goes out with Tommy John surgery. He's playing MLB The Show on Twitch right now. So they're replacing guys with Colin McHugh, and I want to say Brad Peacock is their number 5, which he's been a journeyman. But the problem is, how do you project 162 games with a roster that has injury issues in the past? They have a track record of that, but also have massive star potential. I mean, they just signed Alex Bregman to 6 years, $100 million.
Yeah.
That was a cheap contract for Bregman. Bregman is probably worth, not double that in years, but close to double that in salary if he hit the free market. And so all of this to say, don't waste your money, first of all, betting on that. We would never condone that on this show. But it's just so interesting to see the mind games that get played. Now, to the World Series lines, which are probably a little bit more interesting. And I said Baltimore Orioles have the longest odds to win the World Series. They won 48 games a year ago. You bet they're at plus 60,000 right now.
Are you serious?
Plus 60,000. So not ideal. The Boston Red Sox, the Houston Astros, and the New York Yankees, I believe, are all the favorites according to this site at plus 600. But you can get some real value on some teams here. So the Philadelphia Phillies, plus 1,000. If you think that the Phillies loaded, that roster is stacked right now. If you believe that they're going to go all the way, you get plus 1,000 there. San Diego Padres, which would be a real long shot because the West is absolutely stacked. The Diamondbacks may or may not be competitive. The Giants won't be, but the Rockies are there to contend. You have 4 teams in the NL East that are right now projected to win 85 games or above, which is insane. I mean, the fact that you could have 3 teams from the NL East get a playoff spot, so you could have a division winner, 2 wild cards, and you could still have a 4th team left out in the cold that was in contention is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
The Texas Rangers, for those of you interested, if you want to bet any money on the Rangers' battered and bruised pitching staff carrying us to a 3rd World Series in team history, you're looking at plus 20,000 for that. So, not as bad as the Baltimore Orioles, but
it's just
don't
what
throw
point?
money
I
at it.
understand the motto if I'm always going to bet $10 if it's 1,000 or more odds, like plus 1,000 or higher.
Yeah.
But, or maybe that in this case, like plus 20,000 or higher, like, it's impossible.
Yeah.
For teams like the Rangers and Orioles to win the World Series.
Yeah. No, it just is.
It's so
At some point you have
it's so
to
top heavy. You have teams that would dominate the Rangers. If they
Right.
played a 20-game series, Rangers would win 4, 5.
That's generous. Yeah, I was looking over stuff like player lines to win their respective MVPs, right? So for American League MVP, Joey Gallo's odds are like 5,000 to 1 odds, right? And so some guys back in Dallas were on the radio and they were talking about, oh, well, I mean, you might as well throw down $10 on that. And one of the guys went, when has someone who batted .215 ever won the American League MVP? And it's like,
Just a waste of $10.
Yeah, exactly. You're just throwing away $10. I mean, could he have a breakout season, hit 285, hit 50 home runs, and then be the American League MVP? Sure. Is that going to happen? Absolutely not. There is no way. There's just no chance that Joey Gallo hits above 250. He's not built to.
Yeah.
His swing, he goes up there and takes, just ginormous hacks.
He's like cutting down a tree.
Yes.
With an axe.
Yes, he goes out there to fell the lumber every single time he swings his bat. And if he connects, great. It's going 600 feet. But oftentimes he doesn't. And that's why he leads the team in strikeouts and bats just above the Mendoza line. Like, I'm not going to throw money on that. So, yeah, gambling is a dangerous thing. Don't do it. But it is fun to talk about as sportscasters and guys that host a little podcast and like to have a chuckle or two. But, for baseball, that's pretty much it. There's until we get the season going, there are, I've done a ton of reading. Just about everything that has come off The Athletic and the MLB section, I've read, which has been incredible because their content is fantastic. But until the season actually starts and we see how guys perform, like Shelby Miller's slated to be the Rangers' 5th starter. I do not believe he threw 80 pitches at all this spring in a single outing. Like when someone asked John Daniels about that, they were like, "Well, yeah, he's gonna get up to the 80 pitch mark against the Astros in his first start." I'm sorry. The 5th game of the season, your first start is not a great place to be experimenting with things. Like, I'd like to have stuff locked. When you're making roster decisions, I would like to know a little bit ahead of time. Yeah, that guy's arm isn't going to fail him past 75 pitches.
They need to have the Little League World Series pitch count for the Rangers staff, man. Sorry, you threw 35 today. You're out for 2 weeks.
Have like the Little League radar gun too.
Yeah.
Scoot the mound up, roll out.
We're gonna have to
turf
give
mound.
the MLB equivalent for our guys. They're gonna throw 86. MLB equivalent 97.
Give the Little League equivalent. Yeah,
Little League equivalent.
Shelby Miller rolls out there on the mound. He's peppering 88, and they're like, from 46 feet, which is basically point blank range, he would be throwing 150 miles.
These guys are throwing from inches away from the batter's box and getting Tommy John while at it. Yeah. Throwing just ephuses in the Little League World Series.
Yeah, no, oh my gosh, that's a whole nother soapbox. When they go to the Little League World Series and they're like, oh, Cody Bellinger was a stud in Little League World Series, and he made it to the MLB. I'm like, by the grace of God. There is nothing about Little League that is redeeming to the next level of baseball. They're terrible. They're awful. Nobody can throw. Nobody can catch. The umpiring, the officiating. I mean, a strike is not 6 feet outside the batter's box, but hey, that's what you see called in the League World Series. And then they're like, oh, well, that ball was 55 miles an hour from 46 feet. But if you extrapolate that out to 60 feet, 6 inches, that kid's throwing a cool 98 miles an hour. He's the next Chris Sale. Get ready. What?
Dude, I'm telling you. I talked about when I think I was in 6th grade. And I was talking to my buddy, and I was like, dude, are these guys any good? And he said, we would wipe them off the field.
Yes.
I mean, dude, they're playing on like tiny ball fields.
Yes. It's like 200 foot fences.
Pop flies are soaring out of the park.
Exactly. I mean, you watch kids, you can see as they swing, right? You see their bat jump back from the impact of the ball. And it soars what looks like 400 feet out of the ballpark, but oh, wait, no, that was just 250. How is that qualifying for skill in some of the best ball players that the next generation has?
And then the poor players that are just trying to have fun. Then you get a 6'5", 230 Cash Davis. Just mauling kids. I mean, this guy's coming in full speed from third, and you have a poor little 5'6",
Yep.
Maybe $135 catcher right here waiting to tag him. I mean,
well, I don't even remember. There was a kid last year that made it to the Little League World Series who was like 5'4", but 230 pounds, right? I mean, they had to fly in a custom
that is
jersey
a
for
safety hazard for these pitchers. Dude, you throw a 45-mile-an-hour pitch from 45 feet away.
Yeah.
These big 6'4", 6th graders are gonna kill someone one day.
Yeah.
Right off the dome. I mean, these poor 5'6", 125-pound pitchers.
I will say it is entertaining to watch kids like Cody Bellinger, who I remember watching him in the Little League World Series. He played for whatever the West team was that year. He had a home run during the Little League World Series. And I remember them saying like, oh, this is one of the best of the best. And I like rolled my eyes. Now, obviously, Bellinger has done a lot of work since then. And he's gotten out of Little League. He played on a big boy field for the first time. He got actual coaches who know what the heck they're doing. And he's a great athlete. And he was able to make it to the bigs. And obviously he's one of our best stars. But nobody talks about Johnny Field, who played second base for Reno Little League, and how terrible Little League baseball is for his future development as a baseball player. It's just, it's horrible to watch. I can't watch it. I used to watch it every summer. And now, as soon as their tacky little jingle comes on, I'm like, nope. What are we watching? Cornhole. All right,
dude, the cornhole championships.
You can't spell sausage without USA. That's Johnsonville's motto.
What?
That's the sponsor of cornhole, right? Like the ESPN cornhole series is sponsored by Johnsonville Sausage, and their motto is "You can't spell sausage without USA."
Man, the marketing guy that came up with that.
Wow, this podcast is just gone
as
to the
much
dogs.
as we're hating on Little League. Somehow I watch it.
Yeah.
I am just a sucker for it sometimes.
If I ever do watch it, I'm the most judgmental guy ever.
I love seeing the gargantuan 6th graders.
Yeah.
That somehow are just towering over these poor kids.
Yeah. The 6 foot and above guys are the guys that weigh in at 200 pounds when they're 12. It's just like, wow, get the popcorn. This is. There's an athlete right there.
Yeah.
Guy can't even rotate his hips to complete the swing, but hey.
He check swings and it's a home run.
Exactly.
Man,
but I think
that was one of the funniest tangents I think we've ever gone on.
Oh, I might have just secured myself the Twitter clip of the week. But yeah, I mean that's it for baseball. Like I said, don't go bet your money on that. There are far better things to be doing with your money, but with that, we'll go from degenerate gambling into the lesson for the week.
That's right. Somehow bringing this back to a serious note. The lesson is we're talking about upsets in March Madness and
right, and how God picks certain favorite teams, right? That's in scripture.
Yeah. We're gonna blaspheme. We're gonna change things up a little bit. No, but we're talking about how when upsets happen, things don't go as planned for these teams and these players. And just tough losses to see, and relating that to our walks with Christ and how when things don't go as planned, the pain that follows. Mm-hmm. Man, watching that UCF Duke game, I was heartbroken for UCF. Seeing the players cry, Coach Johnny Dawkins, what can you say to a team after that? 2 shots, roll off the rim barely, and Duke prevails. But I was thinking to myself, I mean, their plans crumbled.
Yeah.
They were going to win that game, move on to the Sweet 16. Then you think of teams like Wisconsin. Their plans crumble. They get upset by 12-seed Oregon. And you think of all these historical upsets. But what are we supposed to do when our plans crumble? And I think the first thing to do is realize, look, it's not supposed to be easy. We are emotional people. We have feelings. We're not robots who just are given commands and we go do them. Oh, error. Move on to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
Look, we're emotional people. And when things don't go as planned, obviously it hurts. But man, the pain that comes from our plans our plans crumbling and not going as we thought they were, look, that should increase our faith. Now, I don't want to downplay the pain because, look, Scripture's clear. There's a time for mourning. There's a time for dancing. There's a time for weeping and a time for laughing. And Scripture says God has made all these things beautiful in their time.
Mm-hmm.
So pain, don't just write off pain. Like I said, we're emotional beings. Of course you feel pain from your plans crumbling. Look, that should be a faith strengthener and as a means for hope. Paul makes this clear. 2 Corinthians 1:3-4, he writes, "Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of mercies and God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our affliction, so that we will be able to comfort those who are in any affliction with the comfort with which we ourselves are comforted by God." Basically, the pain you experience can be used to comfort other people. I think of home. When I was young, my dad dies from cancer, and I see, obviously, there was a ton of pain there, and that hurts. But God in his grace and my mom and people pouring into us, our faith being strengthened by over time seeing how we were able to help walk through other people who experience the same thing. My mom writing a book who she walks with other widows who lose their husbands, and she walks with them and helps them find healing. Like that should give us hope and down the road excitement. Not saying, "Oh, I'm so glad I can't wait for more pain to happen."
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying we're not rooting for pain, but welcoming it with excitement. Obviously, after we take our time to weep and mourn, but welcoming the future that the pain can provide of allowing us to help others walk through things.
Mm-hmm.
And God is gracious in allowing us to heal that way of, look, this thing happened, but I'm going to graciously heal you and allow you to help others heal. And that's going to help you. So that should give, when things don't go as planned, we should be rooted in that because we know God's going to heal us that way and we can use that to help others. And also, I think something else to realize is, as believers, we're called to accomplish God's will through various different plans. That plan's going to change. Sometimes plans are going to crumble. But look, we should get to a point where, okay, these plans crumble, but I love God so much, I love Christ so much that I'm excited that I can still accomplish God's will. But God's will is to believe in Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior and to tell other people about him. The plan in which you carry that out looks different for everyone, and it changes. And we shouldn't be so hung up on a certain plan that we're devastated. And this leads to my next point is, when pain happens, not to downplay pain, but we should do a heart check. Why does this pain hurt so much? Yes, when things don't go as planned, it hurts. But sometimes it hurts so much because we've idolized our certain plans. Look, when you get to a point where your plans crumble in life, but you're excited that, okay, I can still carry out God's will. I'm still able to carry out God's will. It's going to be with a different plan. Then you know that you are not idolizing your plans.
Mm-hmm.
Because look, it's easy to idolize certain directions in life and certain ways we're going to carry out God's will. It's easy for Satan to twist that, and then we're idolizing it. And I think that's where a lot of pain comes from, because we put so much emphasis on this, this is the perfect plan, and becomes selfish motive. And then God humbles us and said, look, your view has been skewed. You're not focused on the plan because of me, you're focused it because of you. In humility, you're going to experience this pain, or I'm going to allow you to experience this pain, and we need to do a heart check, because we shouldn't be idolizing our plans so much that it just crushes us when they crumble.
Mm-hmm.
We should still be excited. Look, I still have so many different avenues to carry out God's will. I can't wait for the next opportunity. So that's just what I thought of. Look, March Madness sees a lot of plans get crumbled with upsets, with different teams winning, and the coaching changes that come from March Madness. But look, we should have hope when our plans crumble.
Yeah, and I think something that is important to remember too is, part of that heart check when your plans don't come through, when everything doesn't go how you intended it to go. You have to realize that your plans aren't yours in the first place, right?
Yeah.
We don't do anything of our own accord. And so, a lot of us get so caught up in controlling the here and now. Okay, well, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do that. And we don't realize that, look, God gives us the breath to take every single step. So first of all, we can't do anything on our own. And, like Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans that I have for you, says the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope in a future." And so, while that verse doesn't exclude the trials, obviously the Bible is very clear that God gives us trials to test our faith. What this verse is saying, what Jeremiah is saying is, look, in the long run, God knows the path that you and I are going to take, right? He knows every single trial and tribulation that's going to happen. He knows every single success, every single, easy stretch or whatever that's going to happen. And he knows where we ultimately end up. And so for those of us that hope and trust in the Lord, God works everything out for good for those who love him, right? It says that in Romans. And so I think it's important that when, we do face a tough stretch or stuff doesn't go the way that we had hoped, it's important to take a step back and realize, okay, what is God trying to teach me in this? Because there's a lesson in absolutely everything that he gives us, right? And so realizing that nothing that you do is your own and that God has a plan for everything, honestly, it keeps you so much more level-headed. It keeps you joyful in all of it. That, yes, is this circumstance the way that I wanted it to pan out? Absolutely not. But at the same time, we hope and trust in the Lord that, okay, I don't know what you're doing right now, but I know that you have a better perspective. You have a better plan for my life than I do. And, when you talk to a lot of like atheists or people that stepped away from the faith per se, a lot of them did so because of some trial and tribulation in their life. Something happened, a family member died, they lost their job, something happened that completely changed the course of their life. And instead of turning to God and saying, okay, I'm going to trust you in this because I don't know what's going on, and clearly I can't do it by myself, they forsake God. They say, no, how could a God, a loving God allow something bad to happen to me? And they turn away. But instead, the Bible is very, very clear that trials and tribulations do happen, and that being a Christian is not all sunshine and daisies at all, right? We are promised persecution and hardships in this life. But like Jeremiah is saying, you trust in the Lord because God wrote the plan for your life. Yeah. He knows every single step that you're going to take, every single breath that you will take. He knew when you would be born, and he knows when you'll die and everything in between. And so, just if you're listening to this, if you're going through a tough time, or if you have something come up here in the near future, distant future, just remember to always turn back to Scripture. Always turn back to your prayer life is very, very important. Our relationship with the Father is what is built to sustain us in those hard times when stuff doesn't go our way.
Absolutely. So yeah, be encouraged. Plans crumble, it happens. But what are you rooted in? You have the foundation of a love for Jesus Christ. That's going to do it for episode 32 of Double Coverage Sports Talk. We are excited. I'll raise a glass to all of the sportsing that will be continued to do in the month of March and April. But with that, we thank you guys for tuning in. We will see you next time.